That's not what I wanted. So, how's everybody doing today? We're going to be talking to Mad Genius Productions. Does a little bit of everything. I think armor seems to be the big go-to, but we're going to find out. He's going to have a couple things to show, and we're going to spend the next hour meeting Mad Genius Productions. But here's Joe. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, Josh. How are you?
Can't complain. I'm not roasting to death this week.
You guys did get hit pretty hard up there, huh?
Yeah, we don't get the California weather. Let's just put it that way.
You either get cold or super hot.
I see what you call cold is I call short weather. That's the only difference. Like,
no, I agree with you. And it's funny though you say that, because I'll have people come out here and visit from, the Midwest and the East Coast, and they'll all say the same thing. They'll come out in February usually when it's just terrible, and I say bring a jacket, right? And they laugh, ha ha ha. It's 60 degrees at night, and I go, yeah, but it's not quite the same. It's a desert 60 degrees, and once that sun goes down, that 60 degrees is not 60 degrees. It feels like 40.
You see, that's still short weather for me.
That works.
But see, I'm used to like the high being most of the year being 50.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's but I mean it's, and honestly, we're probably 12 hours apart, roughly.
Yeah. Not that far, honestly.
And there's a big difference in weather.
Oh, absolutely. Just between Northern California and Southern California.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is very, very true. So for the most part on your channel, what do you like to build? It's mostly armor, right?
So it's a little bit of a mix. I do like building armor recently. I just kind of got into that not too long ago, but aircraft is what really draws me in. I really love aircraft, but I'm also a car builder by nature. That's just what I started with, and I do love cars and all of that. But if you put three in front of me at this time, I would probably gravitate more towards an aircraft than anything else.
I mean, everybody can see your screen. So is it that generation of airplane? Or are you doing more modern jets?
Oh, good question. I have yet to do a jet. It's mostly World War II stuff, and there's reasons behind that. But yeah, I have yet to do a jet. I want to do a jet, and if I do one, it's probably going to be the Cold War era first, thanks to my good buddy Ben. Eventually, I might do more modern armor and jets, but still getting there.
So that's really cool, and there's a lot of variation there, right? I mean, it's not just one or two planes. I mean, you can kind of bounce to whatever you really want to build, right?
Oh, absolutely. As far as variation, I think that's kind of one of the reasons, besides some others, that I gravitate towards World War II is that was like the golden era. So many different styles, so many different things were coming out. There were so many different inventions, and nowadays with all the modern armor, it all looks kind of the same to me. And the same with modern aircraft. All the jets kind of look the same. They're either the F-18s, the F-16s, the things like that. And I know they're not, so I don't want to upset anyone out there, but it's just that golden era of there were different styles of tanks, and there was different styles of this, and they were trying different things, right? So that's one of the reasons why.
No, I mean, and the cool part is, I mean, which brand of kits are you building a lot of that stuff out of? Is it Tamiya?
Yeah, it's all sorts, and I've been burned along the way. But Tamiya, if I want to do a simple build and have it together well and not have to question it, love Hasegawa. It's probably my go-to for aircraft.
Oh,
Next
okay.
to Tamiya, they're kind of one and the same. But I'll tell you, Academy does a great job with their stuff. It's a little less detail oriented in the cockpit and stuff like that. But I tend to stay away from AMT kits that are aircraft because I got burned on the HS 129, and then also the Revell kits can be hit or miss as well.
You mean the Revell kits can find their way into the wall, not on the bench, right?
That's about right. But they do some great subjects like the B-17, which molds are crazy old, super old, but it's a really great kit out there. It's super cheap. They always pop it. You know, the B-25 is the same. The Pro Modeler series that they have is pretty good as well. But, you know, there's so many other manufacturers out there too that do a great job or are catching up in that kind of area.
So what scale do you like to prefer to stay in?
I build, and hey Jerry and hey Seamus, I see you're in here, and Bob. So I build 148 scale, which is, I'm laughing because my good friend Al over at Al Wood and Fred Henry, they always call 172nd scale the gentleman's scale, right? And so 148 scale, I guess I tell them that's the gentleman's club scale. You know, that's the stripper scale right there.
So what's the size of that light blue one that's closer to the camera?
This one here?
Yeah.
148.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Again, I don't think I've got a couple 172nd scales, but most of them were when I first started and they got kind of destroyed. So I moved on to 148 scale, and that's kind of where I sit.
And the 172nd smaller, right? Is that
super small?
Super small. Okay.
My hat's off to those guys that build 172nd scale, whether it's tanks or aircraft, because the amount of detail they can get out of those kits is phenomenal.
I always think those 132nd all the way. I don't know about that.
That's what Jerry builds.
I mean,
great builder at 132nd, but way too big for me.
I actually have the Peacemaker B-52 bomber, the big one. Yeah, at some point I'm going to build that, but that's probably the biggest thing other than my Warlord Titan I'm going to build. Yeah,
that Titan is phenomenal, man. I love seeing that thing every time I watch it. That thing's super cool. Is the B-52 you have a 172nd scale? I'm guessing.
It's the monogram. It's the really big one. I want to say one. I actually really don't know. I'd have to look at it. Right now, it's like on the bottom of all the boxes because it's the biggest thing.
Biggest one, yeah.
So I can't really see it from here.
That's how my 148 scale Lancaster is. So I hear you.
Bad eyes need 132nd. Well, you know. I understand that. I do understand that one, but you know, I also like to do figures that, you know, are the size of my thumb. You know.
Yeah, and that to me is crazy as well. Like you guys that paint the small like 10 mil figures or, you know, things like that. I don't know how you guys do it, honestly.
It's basically just practice at the end of the day. Because I mean, you can start with whatever size, right? I don't know if I have a small figure here, but I mean, it's basically like doing the interior of a car, right? You got to start with a base coat, and then you just kind of work with the details, right?
Yeah.
And do all the, and once you kind of get a system of how you want to do figures, you can blow through figures in a weekend if you really work at it.
That's definitely one of the nice things that intrigues me about figures. And I've done a couple just to go along with like builds sometimes. And they are a lot of fun. And they're relaxing once you get the seam lines and the cleanup done, at least.
Well, I mean, yeah, and priming them things, like if you do it too heavy, you might as well just throw that thing in a pond somewhere.
Yeah.
Call it done, because I mean, it's all practice at the end of the day. But I mean, that's why I got into figures, is to get better at interior in cars and planes, and because I mean, even some of the interior and some of the jets you got there are just super tiny.
That is true. And that's why, even at 1/48 scale, they're extremely small. And again, that's why I don't know how people that do 1/72 scale or 1/144th for that matter actually can detail anything up personally. And that's kind of the sad thing about aircraft as well, is, you'll hear people say it, is you spend all your time on these builds detailing the interior, to be quite honest, detailing the cockpit, and then you zip it up and no one sees anything that you've done.
Yeah, especially if you like tint the glass a little bit.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you give it that
like on the jets, that anti-reflection or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's crazy what what is underneath there sometimes for the detail.
Yeah, I agree.
You gotta hide, and it sucks, but
I agree. Thanks, Jerry. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it so if what kind of, like, you do, your paint jobs are pretty precise. Are you using like craft paint, model paint?
I started with craft paint, but now I have moved on to model paint. So I'm a paint junkie. I love paint, and I will try different paints. And if you could see my paint racks right now, you would probably write somebody and say I have a problem, because I'm the guy that went out and bought the entire Vallejo Air line.
Ooh.
And so I'm the entire guy that gets all the Tamiyas. If I was just telling someone the other day, if someone comes out with a fire hydrant red, even though it's just red, I'm the idiot that goes out and buys fire hydrant red, thinking that there's a difference. So I do a lot of Vallejo Model Air, mostly for the aircraft, because I finally found out the formula to make it work. But I also like, for the armor, I'll use AK Real Colors or Tamiya or Mr. Color, because they're a little bit more durable and they hold up to the weathering a little bit better than most other things.
No, what do you mean by it holds up to the weathering?
So what you can do with what Vallejo Air won't do well is chipping. So if you do the hairspray technique,
okay,
Vallejo Air, for whatever reason, does not want to react to it. It just comes off in big old clumps and balls up. It's just not that great. But if you want to do Vallejo Air and then clear coat it, do all the weathering for there, then you're in pretty good shape. With the tanks, though, you're doing layer after layer of mud, enamel washes, these kinds of things, and I have seen that it will eat through the varnish and into the Vallejo Air, and Vallejo Air can't stand up to anything. I mean, if you paint it on a spoon and you look at it wrong, it chips off.
Yeah, so that is kind of true. The couple times I've used it.
And it does. I cursed at it when I first used it. I couldn't stand it. And then I found the secret formula, which was basically using their own thinner and their airbrush flow improver
Oh, okay.
was the combination to get it to flow and lay down really nice and smooth. And again, they make, another reason why I like them is they make the specific colors for what you're going for, right? So this, the Bearcat is sea gloss blue, enamel blue, and they make that specific color. Japanese have really odd colors, and so do Russians when it comes to aircraft. So they have the whole entire Russian line, and it just looks perfect. It fits the part, to me at least.
So out of all the paint that you have, what is your favorite color?
Ooh, good question. My favorite color in everything in this world is usually black. Black, as we all know, though, is not that much fun to paint on a model, especially in a car. But I love black. I love metallics for cars and automobiles. I think just metallics are something great, and they also can help hide some of that orange peel as well, believe it or not. So, yeah.
So if you were going to say something to all those manufacturers, what would be the one complaint that you have about all of them?
Oh.
And price can be that too, because
Sure.
some of the guys really think their paint's good.
Honestly, I think that the one complaint I would have would be the tonal variations between the same color. So I'll give you an example. Ben and I were going back and forth on the Bearcat here, and I have, again, I'm an idiot, so I have like the Tamiya Sea Blue, the Mr. Color Sea Blue, AK Sea Blue, Eric Vallejo Air Sea Blue, all these Sea Blues. Did a spoon test on each of them, and each of them were a different blue. And so I had to sit here and decide which one was most accurate. So I think tonal variations between the same color but different brands is what kind of gets me.
That is a really good point. And I think for me, I try to look up the pigment tone. You know what I mean? What pigments they're using to get the color.
Oh wow, you're a smart man. I would never think to do that. That's great advice.
I'm not smart at all.
I never would have thought to do that.
But like paint has a particular, like, in a couple weeks, I'm actually going to have someone on that used to work at I can't think of it. It's House of Color. And no, that might not be big right, but I think I'm close. And that's going to be some of the questions, like, how do you get the different tones? And that's going to be a cool episode for me.
Yeah, that'll be.
I kind of understand that chemistry a little bit. So I kind of get how they make different colors, but like you do one thing different and it can totally change the tone of the color.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But like if you ask me to blend two colors to get this color, yeah, I'm an idiot. I cannot figure shit out.
I'm the same way. I don't mix colors, which again, going back to why I buy fire hydrant red instead of mixing my own, because I can't do it.
Yeah, and then you got people like James Wappel that his wet palette is just basically paint at this point, and he's just adding to it,
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
That is crazy. Hey, Brian. Sorry, giving shout outs to Brian.
Yeah, Brian's got some good work too. So your buddy Ben, how long have you been doing group builds with him? And does he have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, he has a YouTube channel called Ben Builds. We've been doing it for a couple of years now, maybe 2 years, and we've knocked out a lot of builds together. So it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, he has a great YouTube channel. He does all sorts of things, and he organizes it perfectly, like Military Mondays, Sci-Fi Wednesdays, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like from the little bit of videos I have watched, you two have there's something there that not the rest of us know that get you two together. It's really cool.
We get along really, really well. We just kind of clicked, and we share some of the same background and history and things like that. And we also have a lot of the same interests. So that's why these buddy builds kind of came around, because, I mean, there are times where I'll tell him, like, hey, man, I really been feeling like building a Bearcat. And he'll say, are you kidding me? I've been thinking the same thing. I keep pulling her off the shelf. So there's kind of that chemistry where we go back and forth, and it seems to really work out. So, and he's a great guy.
So the little bit I do know about some of the things I've seen you two do, you guys should like one of you start one and then the other one finish it. You know what I mean? Or switch halfway through. That would be cool,
yeah,
guys.
We've actually discussed doing that, believe it or not. But I told Ben, I'm like, I'm gonna screw it all up. So no, I don't want to do it, because if you check out his work, it's through the roof. And I'm like, no, don't. You just keep it and you do your thing, because he'll do some crazy scratch building and things like that. And I am honestly more out of a box builder. But to go back on something you were talking about tonal variations, I like to manipulate paint. So if I lay down a black primer and put the same color over it, I can get a different color than if I use a gray primer, things like that. So I kind of do more of an optical thing, whereas Ben, he will scratch build the hell out of some stuff.
Yeah, I've failed many times at painting, starting with black or gray or even white, and you put like orange down and it comes down like brown.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what did I do wrong?
It's so true. And orange, yellow, reds all take on something different when you have any kind of a change.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I wish I was better at that stuff. I really, really do. But it's just the process of learning at this point for me.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the Titan you're working on, and it's pretty good. So don't sell yourself short, because you got some paint skills.
Okay, I'll thank you, but I don't agree with that.
We're always our worst own critics, man.
No, that's very true. And that Titan, I don't think I'm ever gonna put it in a competition, because it's 3D printed and I was learning how to print, so some of the prints aren't all that great. But I want that to be like the middle of the table. You set that in the middle of the table, and the rest of the models are around it.
Yeah.
At contests and stuff. That's what that is going to be for, because I had a couple offers to sell it, but they don't want to pay me for what it's actually worth. So no, I'm not selling it anymore.
Yeah. Right on. That's the way to go.
But it's life. So how long have you been doing YouTube? You've been doing it for quite a while, right?
No, I mean, well, time is odd nowadays, but it's been about 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah, and that's about the same time I started building. I started building maybe 3.5 years ago. So
what brought you back to the hobby?
as a little kid, maybe 8 or 9, I did a couple builds, nothing big, but moved on and life. And honestly, what brought me back to the hobby was, and I think a lot of people could probably relate to this, I needed a stress reducer, right? And I was thinking back, like, man, what did I used to do that was always fun? Because I mean, I do play video games sometimes, but those can kind of cause more stress. And so, especially if you're playing with others. And so I was like, man, what did I used to do? Oh, I used to build model cars. I wonder if that's still around, or if that's even a thing anymore. And so I started looking, and I'm like, I go on YouTube and I discover this community. I'm like, holy crap, this thing is big. It's not just, it's not just nobody anymore. There's tons of stuff. So that's what kind of got me in the hobby, and I just got back to it and started having some fun, and then I started watching not started, but I was watching Chris Chapman at the time, a lot of Chris, and in one of his videos, one of his coffee time videos, he was just encouraging people to, who cares what it looks like, just get it on there, let people see it, share your stuff. It doesn't matter if it's accurate, it doesn't matter if it's terribly painted or whatever it might be, just get out there and do it. And the reason why I like Chris was because he was using everyday items. He wasn't doing anything that I would watch other people like Plasmo and go, yeah, there's no, not, how the hell does he do that? So Chris was one of those people that just kind of, he was a gateway drug into YouTube.
See, for me, it was Chris Cortell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd love to get Chris on here, but I don't think he'll do it. But Chris, it was him, Dr. Cranky. I think the Styrene Syndicate was just starting, and then there was one other channel I was watching, and his channel would come up, and everybody just go ching right to it, and you just see all the comments. And that's what did it for me. I would have never thought about doing YouTube, and now I'm interviewing people, right?
Right.
It's like,
yeah, that's the way it goes. And I bet Chris would come on. I bet Chris Cortell would go on if you reach out to him. He's a super nice guy.
Oh, Chris is a great guy. I could ask him anything, but there's that community, and it's not a bad thing at all. But they try to stay pretty private with putting themselves out there. You know what I mean? And so I don't disrespect that.
Well,
it's understandable.
I completely understand that. I mean, look, we're not on camera here, so absolutely.
But I mean, and then with the last year being under lockdown, everybody pretty much has a webcam now.
Yep.
Because before pandemic, you never saw interviews. Never.
It's true.
People just didn't do it. And this last year, it's kind of put people on camera more. So they're kind of used to it. And they're not as hidden. And, they're up for it more now. But yeah. And that's why I really thought about doing this 2 years ago and was trying to get it up and going. But people were like, nah, I don't want to. I don't have a webcam. I don't have, and it's like, and, post-pandemic, everybody has a webcam,
Exactly. Yeah.
It's true. The program I'm using right now does not like cell phones whatsoever.
Or OBS. Which I found out before doing this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it does not like to work with OBS. If you have OBS up and running, none of your cameras will register. It's funny.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, I've heard that actually. But you were gonna say?
What's that?
Oh, so what's this green car?
So the green car is, gosh, I mean, I did this one a while ago. in here.
Oh, there you go.
Man, I can't even remember when I did this. It's been a few years, but it was probably one of the best ones that ended up being total all-around builds, just for me, as far as like paint goes and polishing and all that. It turned out to be one of the better ones that I truly enjoyed. Just not only building, but actually stayed together. And
So is the side of the car, is that decals, or is that you taped it off and painted it that way?
no, that's total decals.
Wow, you're a lot better at decals than I am. Holy cow.
I know a lot of people say that, but I don't mind decals at all. I don't know why, but they really don't bother me too much.
Yeah, there's some decals for me that you slide them onto the car and they mangle.
Yeah.
And then there's others, and maybe it's just Revell kits, because Revell kits are really, really bad on the decal side. But
Honestly, it depends on their age and how they were printed. But yeah, I've had decals just explode in the water before.
yeah, for real. Like this thing, like there's one on the tailgate. I don't know if it'll show up, but like there's the one on the tailgate. Oh, it's on you. Ha! I knew that. I knew that. But like the decals on these were actually pretty good. But this is one of the truck series, the 41.
Mm-hmm.
And so the decals on this were actually pretty good. But like that door one right there, there's a part, the corner, I really had to put clear coat on it so it would lay down like and disappear that corner, because it really it really hurt putting those on.
Oh man, I tell you, that's one of the tricks that I learned. There was my compressor. That's one of the tricks that I learned was putting down a really good clear coat and then clear coating over top of them, because I never actually clear coated over any of my decals previously.
And that, I mean, is kind of an art in itself too, because you kind of have to how do I say this? Because if you do it too not hard enough, the decal won't disappear. And then if you don't do it thick enough, it'll go underneath the decal and mess the whole thing up. It's like, and yeah.
And there's no going back either. Well, so I used to adhere to the theory that if you didn't clear coat over your decals, if you needed to, you just take a piece of tape and you can pull them right up, right? And go out and buy aftermarket decals if you wanted. Didn't matter. And it does work. If you take like a piece of masking tape or Scotch tape, it'll peel it right up. But then I also discovered what was happening was the decal sheen would be different than the car. So it would kind of throw everything off. And a lot of times you'd see the silvering, you'd see the film. So
and this is that, getting better with an airbrush too, that I really struggle with also. But like clear coats, like you can turn them the pressure way down and everything will flow just fine. Or you have to have it completely on high because it's too thick and it won't spread through the airbrush. It's like,
yeah, it's the bane of my existence. I constantly have trouble with clear coats, constantly.
And I use the cheap stuff. I use the American folk art clear coat stuff when I'm wanting to airbrush it, or otherwise I just go get the rattle can clear matte in the clear UV, or the UV resin clear, out of like a Walmart or whatever. Those are like my go-tos. I mean, I use the American stuff on the truck.
Yeah.
And it worked great this time. Next time it could be a complete disaster. It's just that's the way it is for me.
I'm the exact same way. I mean, with my clear coats, unlike my paint, I pretty much stick to the same clear coats that I have, and one day can differ from the other.
Yeah, it is crazy. So what are you using to glue stuff together with?
I use a multitude of glues, as we can see here. Tons of CA glues, including the AK Black, which I've been giving a shot and giving that a try. But the Gorilla glues, honestly, are some of the best for the CAs. I know everyone loves the Bob Smith Industries, but I constantly have a problem with that one where it stops sticking after a while. Like this just doesn't even bond to anything. And then, of course, I'm using my Tamiya the extra thin quick set, the Mr. Hobby Cement S, which is great in certain instances, but the brush on the end of it is really big, so it can be kind of tough. The Tamiya Cement, which is essentially your tube glue, but with a brush. And I even have the Mr. Cement Deluxe, which I'm really starting to love this one. I just got it not too long ago. And it's not as thick as the Tamiya Cement, but it's not as thin as the extra thin. It's like a perfect in between, and it sets really quick.
Yeah.
And then, of course, white glue, Canopy glue, tack glue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but for canopies, for the most part, this tack glue is great. And then for windshields, and people are going to think I'm crazy, but there's a great technique for windshields that I use, using the Plastruct bonding, or the Squadron one is the same, but this stuff is super hot, and so everyone thinks you're going to melt your windshields or it's going to fog it, but this stuff, if you do it just right, works phenomenally.
Oh yeah, that's I haven't heard that one. I use that evergreen clear or evergreen glue,
The Canopy glue.
Canopy glue.
Yep.
From Evergreen, and that's been the best thing for windows for me. Like my windows went from no smudges or getting smudged, marks, glue stains, to now you can actually see through them.
Nice. Yeah, I had a bottle of that Evergreen, but they changed their formula, and it stopped working for me, and I don't know what it was. So I went to that tack glue, that Aleene's tacky glue, and it just, because it'll hold something really quick without sliding around, it works out really well for me. But yeah, that Evergreen Canopy glue is like a go-to for a lot of people.
I've done the future thing where you set it out a little bit and then it turns to some kind of glue. I've used that didn't work.
Yep.
I've done Elmer's glue. I've done the dry stick glue. It's just like Windows for a long time for me. I would get everything close to being okay, and then you'd look at the windows and be like, what the heck happened? This car looks like it.
You sound like me, man, that you try everything, because that's exactly how I am. I try so many different products.
So what's this black handle thing here? That wood carving? Wood burning?
What are we looking at?
Above the glue, black handle.
This one?
Yeah.
This is actually just a hobby knife holder.
That's a hobby knife holder? Holy shit.
it's it's supposed to be an ergonomic one. It's junk. Don't get one. I turned it into a glue Doppler, super glue Doppler thing. But as far as a hobby blade goes, it's I don't know. It's too much.
I was like, what are you using a wood burner handle for? Hobby.
If I was doing some, nice bases, it'd probably be good. But no, I even have the Tamiya one, and this one I don't like either. The good old fashioned Excel. This is the one I go to all the time. I mean, it's simple, it's easy, and it works out really well.
No, I mean, that's not what I thought that was. That's not where I thought we were going with that. But that's cool. So you had a case on the car when you first brought it out. I don't know if I seen it, but so what's your go-to cases and stuff, or do you just go get the ones at the hobby shop?
There's ones on Amazon, and Jerry, I do sniff a lot of glue, Jerry. Just way more than an average person probably should. But I go on Amazon, and they have a certain brand on there that's just, a couple dollars cheaper than the AMT. It's about $7.99 instead of $9.99. And so I just kind of get that one because I don't have too many builds. I only put a build in a case if I think it's worth being in a case. So I try not to, I know a lot of people put everything in one, but for me, it has to be pretty special.
That's true. His desk is way more organized than mine.
I have massive OCD. That's why. Like I'm the guy that has to check the stove 5 times. That's me.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that because half the time I leave the stove on and go to bed sometimes. Just because, I cook something and or the wife will cook something and I'll forget to turn it off and then go to bed and then the smoke alarms are going off. It's like, right. Yeah, great.
Yep, same here. And I check the locks like 5 or 6 times at night. That's mainly because of where I grew up at, but still, that's yeah.
No, I mean, everybody's got a unique thing about them.
Absolutely.
So what do you do for work?
Well, without getting too much into it, I'm basically I'm a director of IT security for a very, very large company.
Okay. So how does that help you in the hobby?
It
probably drives you to the hobby, right?
I was gonna say, if we go back to our earlier conversation, it pretty much drives me to the hobby. It doesn't help me at all, except for the luxury of being able to afford the things that I want to get, right? But other than that, it detracts from the hobby a great deal because I work 12, 14, 16-hour days. I'm on call constantly. I'm on, the weekend. And even though I have large teams across this globe, it still seems to always be, me. So that's what I do. I'm an IT nerd, I guess. Security nerd.
So with being someone that's kind of in that field, have you dabbled in the 3D printing stuff at all?
I haven't. I'm interested in it. I don't know if I have enough interest to make the investment yet, but I also know how technology goes and that the Mars 2 Pro right now, that's $300. Give it another year. Give it another 2 years. It's going to be faster. It's going to be able to do prints quicker, use less resin, use this, and it'll be $100 instead of $300, right? So,
thing that I would add to that is the next machine will do all that, which will be $500, and that machine will be $100.
Yep.
That's where 3D printing is right now.
Oh, absolutely. And as well as it should be, and that's just the way the things go. I mean, but I don't have enough of a need yet to get my own 3D printer. I could still kind of get away with buying from third-party people.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, even this guy now has a 3D printer.
Hey, Fred, I know.
I mean, you know, and
I can't wait to see what he turns out in his 3D printing, because you've seen his casting. So imagine his casting, but in a more precise and quicker fashion.
You know, and then you start doing figures that are this is the cape for Batman.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I saw your Darth Vader one. That Darth Vader one was awesome too.
Yeah, I don't know if Batman will be as big as Vader. I think so, or maybe a little bit bigger. But yeah, yeah, that's been the resin side of it. I have not gotten figured out. I'm just going to be honest. Don't ask me for resin tips. It's just not gonna go well for you. But the filament side, like if the first layer lays out correct, I go to work, and 10 hours later, when I get home, the thing will either be done or close to being done when I get back. So,
that's amazing.
But that's 3 years of trial error, you know. I think I've been doing it 3 years now, 3-4 years, something like that.
Nice.
So let's see. We've talked about tools, paint, glue. What we do. If there's one thing you could change about the hobby, what would it be?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think it would be availability, and that's meaning, like, I don't have a hobby shop near me, right? And I know I've got friends in Costa Rica. I've got friends all over this world, and they don't actually have access to a lot of stuff. And we here in the US don't have access to a lot of stuff quickly, right? Because a lot of the manufacturers, Tamiya, Hasegawa, they're all in the other side of the world. So we'll get things late. You know, we don't have the Tamiya LP paints here in the States directly.
That's because of your state, so you know.
No, that's not true. But I've heard that. So the thing with that is California just labels everything, right? That everything causes cancer, blah, 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 Prop 65. But you can still, if it wasn't allowed in the US, then you wouldn't even be able to order it, right? So I can actually still order Tamiya LP paint from Canada and other manufacturers and distributors. There's just not a distributor in the United States that's selling it currently, right? But I can order it and still get it in. And there's certain things that I can't even do that with. Like there's 2K Clear, which is everybody's favorite subject, right? 2K Clear, I can only get the 2. I can't get the 4, the VOP. And because California state laws, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't get it in California. But California can't actually block the sale of anything else outside of its own state, right? So yeah. There's a misconception there that California is blocking the sale of Tamiya LP paints, but it's not the case. You can go on Amazon right now and grab some and get them shipped to you. Not a big deal.
So, but the thing the reason it's blocked in the U.S., and this is what Brett told me a couple weeks ago, is it has to have a certain label for him to sell it in his store that's cohesive to California standards, right? The whatever, everything, this causes cancer or may not cause cancer, you know, that label.
Yep.
I'm not, and I could be wrong on some of this, but it's, yeah, I think that's what he was talking about. I want to say that's what he was talking about.
I mean, I've yet to see an article, because I'm a research person and fanatic, but yeah, I've yet to see an article that actually is stating that the ban of Tamiya LP paints is based solely on that label or anything like that. So if someone has one, I'm happy, send it over to me. I'd love to take a look at it. But you know, there's tons of Tamiya products out there. Like I'm looking at the lacquer thinner right now that has the warning label on it that says may cause cancer. You know, and it's so if Tamiya is refusing to put that label on there, then that's on Tamiya, I guess. It's not, but they could be sold in any other state, honestly. Like, you
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's all, yeah, I wish, Fred. But and there's all and there's a couple other people I've talked to that said no, it's because we just can't get it yet, too.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's all of that in it.
Yeah.
The modeling community has got so many rumors in it that it's like everything else in life, right?
Oh, it's so true, man. But it's like zero paints. Like there's only one retail seller for zero paints in the United States, and it's Hobbytown or Hobby USA, something like that. And so, and same with VMS products, you can only get two. There's only two resellers in the entire United States. So if they don't have a retail,
VMS?
What's that? VMS is it's a product out of Poland. They make a lot of great things, like so some chipping paints. Their varnishes are bar none for military users, bar none, some of the best.
Oh,
and this
okay.
is reverse chipping. So instead of chipping underneath, you're actually chipping over top.
Huh. That's a new one.
Yeah, and so a lot of the military guys will use it, their products, and a lot of the their varnishes, their clears are just top notch.
No, that's really cool. And that's some of the products for tanks that just, there's all kinds of little stuff like that that can make the difference, you know, night and day, right?
Yeah. And I mean, that kind of harkens, like when you bring that up, that kind of harkens back to the rumors that the hobby's dying and those kinds of things, right? There's just simply, in my opinion, it's furthest from the truth, because there's so many different products out there. There's so many different third-party vendors now making aftermarket parts, especially with 3D printing, like we were talking about. There's, you know, in the military world, there's so many different kit manufacturers. Now, what might be getting less and less are muscle car kits, muscle car builders, muscle car kits, right? But you're seeing tons of Gundam builders, and you're seeing tons of, you know, those kinds of guys. So it's not dying as much as it is shifting, I think.
And that's my exact thing on it. I mean, the hobby rotates 45 degrees every couple of years, because now you see people like, I mean, Fred's got a printer. Woody Allen's is, probably doing a figure somewhere, or if not, he should be. You know, and there's a couple other people that have been in here that are doing figures when they were doing tanks 2 years ago. Like, you could just see the rotation of everybody's. I mean, you can only build so many 57 Chevy cars so many times, you know?
Exactly.
And that's the one thing that I think modeling manufacturers need to kind of get ahead of. They need to change some of this stuff up a little bit to offer more variety. Because, I mean, even sci-fi kits, there's not very many, you know.
Yep. And I agree. And in fact, even with the muscle cars, right? They repop the same molds over and over again from the 30s, or not 30s, but the 60s and the 50s. And no one ever creates new molds. But in the military world, there's constantly retooled, new tooled kits out there, just constantly. It's that for some reason, AMT and Revell, they do not retool. They do not do brand new molds often. They do sometimes, but they will just repop everything constantly until you have a bad kit, and then people get fed up with it.
And now you got round 2, right? That brings everything out in Coca-Cola scheme.
Yep. Which is great. I mean, I love the fact that they're bringing stuff out, but then people get angry because it's not a good kit, and they get angry at AMT, and I'm like, well, yeah, because they're not doing a retool. They're just popping a new kit because there's demand.
Some of the weathering that he does is just absolutely phenomenal.
You guys are too kind. Thank you, Fred.
And this is another one I'd like to get on the channel.
Brian is great.
Yeah,
Brian is. I talk to some of these guys often, actually, and I'm really surprised they're not giving me more of a hard time. They've been really polite so far. But Brian is a great person, and his sense of humor and his outlook on things, and it's great. I mean, I can't say enough about him. I love watching his videos. I always catch his little things that he throws out, and I'll let him know if I catch things. But our movie references are usually the same. It's kind of funny, and he does just out of this world work.
And he's a West Coast guy,
He is. Yeah, we get to a time zone, which is nice.
Yeah. So we've hit about that hour mark. Did you have any questions for me?
I was thinking of a few questions, but we kind of actually talked on them already. But what's in the future of your 3D printing? What do you plan on building more of? It looks like you're doing a lot of sci-fi stuff, or I guess Batman's not sci-fi, but more figure-based. Do you plan on moving into anything else with it?
So if I can get the resin stuff to work, I want to get that. I want to do more resin figures, right? That's why I really got the resin printer. But I like doing the bigger like masks and stuff on the filament side, like Halloween, and I'd like to get into that a little bit. I'd like to get to where I could do parts for cars and stuff, but I haven't had much luck with that. And that's another reason I got the resin printer. The resin printer, once I get it dialed in and working right, should produce all kinds of stuff for cars. And but I've been having a lot of fun with the resin, with the figures. I want to do some more Warhammer stuff, but I printed out that Warlord Titan that's humongous. Even got, they call them Warhounds. It's probably going to be about half the size of the Warlord Titan, but it has like a dog face to it, and it's got like 2 arms. It's only like that big, I think. It's only like 1.5 feet tall.
Only.
Yeah. Compared to the 3 that the other one is, right?
It's true.
So, it's just kind of a process. I kind of switch it up all the time. So like next time I could be printing out, an alien from Aliens, it just, I tried to keep it fairly well loose and not really set parameters on that kind of stuff.
Got it. So when are we going to see you build an aircraft?
An aircraft? I've built the F-22. I've built an Apache helicopter. Actually, you know what? Did you watch the drunk one? The drunk video that I did? Don't drink.
No, I didn't. I will though.
Yeah. Here. Check
Oh
this
yeah,
out.
I remember. Where you combine. I remember now. You combine two kits.
I don't know what the heck I was thinking. Obviously, I was having a good time, but
That's all that matters. I rarely do this hobby sober.
you know, like I mean, that's the process, and I'm just gonna leave it like this.
You should.
I'm not gonna throw it away. Like, for some reason, this kit came with two of the same wings, so I just hot glued it in. I don't know how I even got it to stay in there. I came in the next morning and this thing was like sitting on the desk, and I was like, okay, obviously that's what the headache's from.
Hey, consider it a post-apocalyptic.
Like I said, I mean, but let's see, what do I have up there? I have a MiG-27. I have the B-52 bomber.
Mm-hmm.
I have I might have to switch cameras here. They're really tiny, but I have these kind of things. Airfix. I have a couple of their things. I have a couple of different things. I have an F. I just got it actually. There's and you have to go way back in time to the start of the channel. But I did a diorama of a F. Oh, what is that box thing? Oh, the F-117 blockhead.
Oh, okay.
And I had the one that had the ground crew and everything with it.
Yeah.
So I put that together, and then I put the other one, like where they were taking parts from this one and putting it on this one, you know.
Nice. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I've done a couple. Where I don't like doing planes is the canopies, like getting everything taped off right so you can paint the bars inside and out.
Yeah. Pre-cut masks are my friend.
What's a pre-cut mask?
So pre-cut masks are, Edward will make them, and there's different manufacturers that are, it's laser cut, basically Tamiya tape that goes right in where it's supposed to. So you just peel it off, stick it on.
Oh, I'm gonna have to write that down once we're done.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little extra expense. Usually they'll go for about $8 or, you know, sometimes like $3 or $4. But it's if you have something like a JU-88, or I do plan on doing a Dorner 215 here soon, where there's tons of different glass and canopies and things like that. They are, to me, a super time and stress saver.
Huh? I'll have to look into that. That's a good tip. Needless to say, canopies are the reason I don't do a lot of airplanes. It's not anybody else's fault. It's
hey, that's
this
right.
guy just is not good at doing them, right?
Yeah, that's what happens. You know, we all have our things, like I said before. So the only other thing I would say is I was sent a request by somebody to explain. I hate to even do this, but to explain my name and why I'm called Mad Genius Productions. And you know Pink Floyd, right? I'm assuming.
Music group, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay. I know who they are. I don't listen to a lot of music, but I know who they are.
Oh, okay. So Pink Floyd started back in the 60s. They had a lead singer called Syd Barrett. Pretty trippy cat who had underlinings of schizophrenia. And if you don't know this, LSD, this is why the CIA did LSD tests on people. LSD will actually activate an early onset schizophrenia if you have that gene. And so he did a bunch of LSD, kind of became schizophrenic, became a little out of there. Pink Floyd got rid of him for David Gilmour. But he showed up one day saying that he had wrote a bunch of new songs for Pink Floyd. And everyone's still friends with him, but he was a recluse at this time. You know, no one really talked to him. And he started playing the song, and it was called Have You Got It Yet? And so Roger Waters and David Gilmour started playing along, trying to learn it, and it was a pretty simple composition that he's playing. And what he kept doing was changing the chords and changing the tune, and kept singing, Have you got it yet? Have you got it yet? And so after about an hour, they realized that he was just messing with them. You know, they were never going to get it because he would keep changing the song. So they would never be able to learn the song. And then he just gets up and leaves. And so Roger Waters, recollecting that day, said it was a real act of mad genius. So that's kind of where the name for this channel comes from. And I used to do video editing back in the day. So the whole Mad Genius Productions has nothing to do with models. It's just all based on a great story from a great band and what I used to do. A company I used to run called Mad Genius Productions, which did video editing.
Well, that explains some of your intros and stuff now, because if you used to do that, that explains a lot. Because the intro for at least the last couple videos I've watched, really good stuff.
That means more to me than the people that say my models, more than what my models, right? I love the intros. I love doing them for people, and I love it when people like them. To me, that is, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to say it. It's like I enjoy doing the models, and I love that people love them. But when people comment on my intros, that makes me so happy, because it can take a lot of work sometimes.
Yeah. See, at some point, I want to do an intro video, but yeah, I'm not good at video editing like that. You know what I mean? Like it takes a special somebody to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like, so we all have our skills and talents. Like I'm total crap at. Brian will give me, and thanks, Fred. Brian's gonna give me a hard time, but I'm total crap at like lighting and videoing. Like people that can photography, photographs, videoing with the right lighting, and they know what they're doing with the shadows. And no, it's not going to happen. But if you give me the footage, I'll turn it into something.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I like the light above me. Do you know that 3-wing light that is in the as seen in TV aisle?
Yep.
That's what's above me. And it lights 3/4 of it. Like I could take the other light bulb out and it would light the whole garage on this side.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's why it's above the modeling table. It's not really a desk anymore. It is a kitchen table, but yeah, it is. Lighting is so important when it comes to this hobby. And
it really is.
There's a couple pieces that I've left because people wanted them, and I always tell them, come at night, because if it goes out in the sun and it looks completely different, that person will be unhappy. But if they leave it dark and then take it inside their house and it still looks good, they're happy as can be. You know, it's like,
absolutely.
and it's not that the paint job or anything's bad. It's just light. Big amount of light can just
Oh, it can be your worst enemy. I mean, I've seen where light, you could have a perfectly nice paint job, right? But if the light hits it just right, it makes it look like it's orange peely. But if you were there in person, it wouldn't look like that at all.
Hey, Fred, there's this thing called an oh shit handle. Use it. Sorry, I had to call. That was funny.
No, definitely. Fred's awesome.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna watch his channel later today if I'm back in time. I've actually got a family thing later on today, so hopefully I can get back to his, like, he's actually gonna be painting one of the bodies or something today with a spray. I'm really bad at that kind of stuff, so I'm really interested on how he does all that. And
oh yeah, I encourage everyone to watch that thing.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I have Brian must know. That's funny. Yeah, that's funny, dude. So, Joe, do you have any other questions for me, man?
No, I think I know you got some stuff you got to get to and some family things. So I mean, I think that's it. But I want to say, you know, I really appreciate you having me on. I mean, never in a million years would I've ever thought that I would be interviewed by anyone out there in the world. So I really do appreciate it, and thank you.
And yeah, thanks for coming on. It's really great to put some of these channels out there too, because, like, I mean, the whole reason I started interviewing people is to make my hobby interest better, or my hobbying skills better.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even with the truck, like, I've learned so much over the last 6 months, and I'm continuously learning new tips, new tricks, new products that everybody does, and everybody brings a unique thing to the hobby. So and I think everybody's kind of starting to see that now. So everybody's a lot more interested in coming on and at least sitting down with me and, you know, taking a little venture.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great time. It's fun to learn about other people and what they do.
And everybody's uniquely different. And it doesn't matter if we're 10 miles apart or 3,000 miles apart, like Fred. You know, he's all the way over on the east side of the states.
I know, you know? He hasn't figured it out yet. He hasn't figured out to come over to the West Coast, although he's spent some time out here.
Yeah, we'll let him talk about all that fun stuff. Right. But thank you for coming on. I will talk to you in a couple minutes, okay? Sounds good. Thanks, Josh. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Dummy. So that was Joe, Mad Genius Productions. We kind of learned a little bit about him. If you're not subbed to his channel, please sub his channel. Just, if nothing else, go check out the intro videos. The intro videos are really, really good. Yeah, and hopefully everybody learns something like I did today. Like, yeah, he's a really good modeler. You can tell by some of the stuff he does. And the buddy build that him and his friend do are really good to watch. That's probably the one thing when he does a buddy build, at least lately, that I at least watch to see what they're doing. But hopefully everybody had fun, and I will see you next week. Next week, we're going to talk about airbrush maintenance with Ken from Badger. Not sure if it's going to be Saturday, because Saturday there's a show like an hour up the state from me. But we're going to be talking about airbrush maintenance, maybe see what Ken's been up to, see if he's going to be doing some conventions, you know, talking about a couple different things. So I will see you guys next week. Bye.